Well, come on. Taking your time today? Alright, there we go. Let's tell the world that we're streaming. Streaming. Oh, that's not how you spell it. Game dev. Gonna try some water stuff today. So, I skipped Wednesday. I forgot. I forgot that it existed. It happens. So, we're gonna work more with water today. There are a couple of things I wanted to try. I wanted to make this as easy on myself as possible, and the easiest way to do these things would be if Unreal just supported them out of the box. And there is, in fact, a water plugin. There's two water plugins. One is called Shallow Water, which sounds like exactly what I need, but there's no documentation or examples or discussion of it, and it's something that they actively warn me is not something that I'm supposed to use. And the other one is just called Water. So we'll try that one first. And I've got a little thing on the left-hand screen here that you can't see telling me what the heck it is. I've already enabled it. I just need to figure out where to go to get it. The Water toolset. So where the fuck is the Water toolset? I can never remember whether swearing is allowed on Twitch. Probably is. Yeah, I'm sure it is. So under source control. Technically, usually I would have expected to see it here. Is it under landscape or is it separate from landscape? Is it under build? No, build is for compilation. So where's the water? Oh, is it under... Hold on, it might be under place actors. Okay, so there are in fact specialized actors for it. That's interesting. So let's just try some of these, see what we got here. It's probably the bad one to start with. I don't see any sign that it actually exists. It's got a ball rather than any sort of clear thing, which I thought maybe meant it was... Well, never mind, it doesn't matter. So we're going to just, I don't know, drop in a lake, I guess. So the idea here is that these are spline editable waters. But I don't know how they work. I might have to wait for the shaders to recompile. So the issue here is that I really just want the visuals. And I'd also like to steal any sort of cheap collision setup they've got for doing splashes and stuff. But I don't want to be stuck using scripted, pre-scripted elements, because I'm cutting these on the fly. I'm taking meshes and chopping them into pieces. So if I have to... so how did it work? It didn't do jack. So if I'm stuck, I can't use this if it only allows me to do spline editing here before compile, and then I have to compile it. But I haven't even gotten started yet. I don't know what's going on here. See, the thing on the left just clearly shows me exactly what I'm supposed to be seeing, and guess what? It's not this. I don't... Alright, well, let's try another one of these waters then. How about a river? So you can see that I have a spline editor here, which is all well and good, except for the fact that I'm not getting any river out of it. Do I have to press a button somewhere? Auto activate? No, that's rendering. Okay, so there are in fact some materials I might be able to just steal. We'll find out shortly here. Curve settings. Do we have... Well, that seems pretty normal. I mean, it's... I don't see anything here that would make it obviously, don't use this. It seems like this would be... Alright, well, here is the idea for editing these spline curves, right? Which would be nice. It would be great. I'd love it if it would work. I'm sure it does work, and I'm just missing something, but this is really obnoxious because in the tutorial it doesn't actually indicate that there's anything that you'd be missing. It's just like, this is what you should see. The water mesh actor can be controlled by... So this is not even a tutorial. The documentation is hopeless. Water plugin. Unreal tutorial. And nobody else has apparently done anything. There's lots of people talking about how they will eventually create a tutorial, and a few video tutorials about it. I don't want a video tutorial. I just want to tell you how to make it exist, how to use the new water system. Make sure the plugin is enabled. Make sure to okay, so it only works within a landscape, which is no go apparently. So I can't use it if it only works within a landscape. But let's create a landscape and see what we get. You know, just to have some fun with it. Land. I don't remember how to create a landscape. So I can edit the landscapes, but I think that I have to actually create a landscape. Oh, it just creates one for me. That's fine. All right, so now that I'm creating a landscape, I have to connect edit layers. There we are. Now simply add a lake or a river or whatever. Not so sure about this. Maybe I have screwed something up. Now, I should be able to change the depth of these. Oh, well, that lake isn't anywhere near being in the right spot. I'm not really sure why it decided to spawn up in the sky like that. We're going to go ahead and move it down. Then we'll go back into the edit of the landscape. It's been a while since I've done any landscape editing, so I don't remember how the brushes work. Sculpt. No landscape. Okay, so it didn't actually create a landscape. It pretended it was going to, and then it decided not to. I don't remember landscapes being this hard to work with. I think that I've got to create a landscape, and I just don't know how to do it right now. How do you... I'm sure that it's something pretty obvious, and I just happen to be brain farting on it right here, public on camera. Landscape. Do I have to click like create landscape or something similar? No, I don't see anything like that. No, new. Oh, great. All right, so now that we've created a landscape, in theory, our various pieces should be, what is it, Control to go down? Shift to go down? Which button goes down? I think it's Shift, yeah. So basically, why isn't this showing up? Well, it's not going to be suitable for us anyway, so I guess we're not gonna agonize over it too much. Let's just try the water stuff on for size here. We'll just go over to a different level. Is this a level? I think this is a level. So right now we're using some very temporary water materials, and we need to get some better ones. I might not be able to figure out how to use the spline tool. Hold on, I got dust all over my lens here. Oh, that's good grease. I cooked some chicken for lunch, and looks like I put my face right into the pan. All right, so I've got some stuff in here that is temporary. I'm trying to remember how to use Unreal because it's been a week. So you can see that we've got some water in here, but the water material is real crap. So what we're going to want to do is change out that water material for something a little bit less crap. Why are you taking so long? That was weird. Here we have it. And we've got this cube here, and this cube is the material that this cube uses is what will be inherited. Now we should have a lot more water than we had before, so let's try some other water materials. Now I installed a cell shader plugin, a free cell shader plugin, and it's not great. I tried all those waters. What we want to do is find some other waters, and some of these are, ooh, this is interesting. I don't think this is going to work. Also, it looks like I accidentally set this to be water. Obviously, I don't want the... Sorry, for some reason this turned into water. But just go ahead and make it into walnut. We'll come back to it later. But you can see that this material is clearly not water. It's just glass, just like a glassy flat surface. So presumably it is like a post-process. There, Ellen says, how are you? I'm trying to get Unreal to give me water for cheap. And struggling with it a little bit. Invisible water, debug water, normalized height water. Most of these are intended to be integrated into a complex water plugin that I don't want to use because it's not really very useful to me. That's what I created. Of course it is. It's named something I actually can understand, therefore it's one of mine. Water material. That's rather flat. It seems to be malfunctioning. Let's take a look at it. Well, that's interesting. It makes it look like there's Z fighting, but there's no Z fighting. This is not a bunch of overlapping meshes. It's just be water, says Bruce Lee. Yes. In my case, it can't flow or crash, though. It just kind of sits there. All right, so here is the SM water plane material, which is invisible. Okay, it doesn't seem like it should be invisible. Oh, I changed the mesh. God damn it. Alright, so I accidentally changed the mesh instead of the water. That was not the most brilliant thing. Keep going here. Water material inst, which is presumably stands for instance, but maybe it stands for instant. Did I do it again? No. What's going on here? This is clearly not a cube. Okay, so what it's doing is it's doing some math on the mesh to make it into a surface. So the Z fighting is between the mesh and itself. That's what's going on here. Might be easier to do it myself, but I have to look up how. And my next door neighbors have just started their party, so I hope you like Caribbean rock, or at least the lower 40 hertz of Caribbean rock. Come on, finish compiling. All right, so let's see how, once again, it's doing this. So the shaders that I got from the water plugin are doing math to make flat water out of a mesh, which means I can't use them. The only thing I'm really missing from my water is the caustics, so it's possible I can steal the caustics from one of these other water elements. Ooh, that actually looks like it might be pretty close to what I need. It's a little bit blue, Caribbean, but that's okay. I can work with this. Okay, we've got 2 layers. What's going on here? Why do we have... Oh, it's just got back. It hasn't got rear clipping turned on, so it's got 2 layers because it's got the bottom of the mesh as well as the top. But of course, we normally have backface culling, so this is a situation where we don't have that. We got a couple of other options as to how to handle that if we decide we want to. But this is basically fine. I can work with this. Now you can see that even though we've got backface culling turned off right now, we don't actually see the other faces in this water. And that's because this water is, it only does the first layer that you encounter visually. And that's correct. That's what we want it to do. The real problem here is what the camera does when it dips below the surface, right? Because this is where things go a little bit bonkers. Now, the reason they go bonkers is because there are a lot of faces here. That one that's flickering in front of me in the sky, you know, in the middle of the screen there, that's two Z faces, the edge of this voxel and the beginning of the next voxel fighting. The one on my waist pointing up, that is the bottom of our water voxel. So we obviously can't do it like this exactly. We can't just plug it in. But what we could do is we could do calculations to determine whether the camera is underneath the water and have a different set of effects or something similar. We could also delete all of the parts of the mesh that aren't the topmost layer. But the problem is that this mesh will often be linked to things that have windows or something similar. And you'll need to be able to see the edge of the water in something like a window. And if the water is rising, you're going to want to see it rise up across the surface of the window. So it's not like we can just say, oh, if it's the window's underwater, use the water visual for the window frame. That's not going to work because the water might not be all the way up the window. This is a fine visual. I'm pretty sure I can customize the color. So if we were to select this, I guess we select it over here. You can see how it looks very dark blue in this image, but it's super bright blue in ours, and I think that's because it might be interacting with the lighting we're using in an awkward way. I don't know how to change the water caustics preview. Let's just take a look here. Okay, so this is using some of... Oh, come on. Move! Jesus. So there is, in fact, a water caustics bit to the plugin. So the Gerstner waves function is something I probably can't use. Maybe I can, but I don't know. This water caustics is fine. I don't have any problems with it at all. And it's just going through a couple of different... What the fuck is this? Okay, so it's doing some really complicated shit. I think that what this does is it just freezes the caustics if you pause the game. That's what I'm presuming. But I'm not sure. And then this gets the Gerstner. Okay, so the difference between compute Gerstner waves and get Gerstner waves is unclear. But presumably this will work since it works. And then we can just move over here. The water texture surface, wave attributes. So the water texture surface is a new thing. This is not something that existed before I plugged in the plugin, and I bet the rest of these are the same as well. Water underside, set wave attributes, camera depth fade. This is beautiful stuff right here. Yeah, I love it. I love it. This is a great setup. The only problem I've got with it is that the visuals are very, very, very blue. And I'd like to make them muddier. But there doesn't appear to be an easy, just watercolor property. These caustics are not placed in the default water materials because placing the functions will cause the textures to all be loaded. For now, please place the desired caustics functions into your water material. So, inheriting these water caustics from Unreal seems a lot cheaper than doing them myself. And these are Unreal plugins, so I know I can just use them. But this water itself is a single layer water material. Okay, that's interesting. So there's actually a new kind of material, I think. but I don't see any blue here, so I'm wondering where the blue is coming from. Because it's just too blue. Oh, well, I'll leave it for now. It's not a big deal. But as you can see, this visual is fine. It's just glow in the dark, like this really vibrant blue water, which is obviously a little bit silly. And it gets brighter over time. I think what it's doing is it's reacting to the darkness of the rest of the scene, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe someone at Unreal thought that this is what water looks like, but this really looks more like milk. I've never seen glow-in-the-dark water of quite this type. Still, looks great. Let's go ahead and move some stuff around here. One of the things that we've got that's a little bit screwed up is that we are not bringing the water with the object here. And what we really need to do is have these water objects inside of the boat room like this. The whole point here is that they travel with the room because the voxels are locked to the room size. That's kind of the point of the voxels. And the whole voxel goes all the way up to the ceiling. I think this should probably just be raised to here, perhaps. And we should be able to just cut and paste it and then stretch it. Or we could just stretch one all the way across the room, however we prefer it. And you can see how it's not slotting in properly. And I think that might be because there is some scaling. There's some scaling. So let's undo the scaling. The object we're using is not the proper size for these water voxels, which is why we're having a problem here and there. But it's not that big a deal. We'll just lower this down a bit. Oh, that's interesting. This plane pause should be in world coordinates, but it's not. It's in local coordinates. That's interesting. That could cause us some serious problems later. Still. What we need to do is make sure that it's wide enough. I guess we'll just rescale this one object to be the right size for our needs. However, clearly, we now know that scaling the object changes the plane of the water. So we're going to have to be real careful about that and fix it in the future. So now that we've got one water voxel filling the place up, this is more in line with how it would look. It's perfectly flat right now. The water isn't flat, though. The water has a slight tilt to it. If we wanted to, we could make that water tilt go away, like this. But here's the thing. Because that water tilt is apparently in local space, it doesn't work right anymore. So we've got to go in and figure out why that's in local space and make it in world space instead, because that's just plain wrong. All right, so here's our construction script where we go through and we grab this stuff. Here is the slice procedural mesh with the plane position and the plane normal. So apparently plane position and plane normal are in world space. It is not in world space. You're a big fat liar. I guess I shouldn't be surprised because this actually is a broken function to begin with. It's in local space. So we are going to have to put it into a world space by using a change. So we're going to just transit to what's it called when you want to move something via something else? Hold on. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this. Let's put the default scene root in, and then we will, it's not translate, it's transform. We want to transform a point. Can we do it with Can we do it with this? If we get this world transform, will that then have the correct things we need in order to actually do these transforms? Here they are, under transform. So, I can't remember which way is invert and which way is straight. But it doesn't matter. If I get it wrong, I can just fix it. So we'll first transform a direction, and then we will also transform a rotation, not a rotation, a position. There we are. So if we were to put the plane pause in here and the plane normal in here, we should be able to plug those in here and here, and it will either be right or completely backwards. Either way, we'll know for sure in a second here. No? The fuck? Something wrong, because I literally transformed these values and they are unchanged. That really shouldn't be. I forget, how do I attach this to a specific? There it is. It's right there. So why can't I get these values? Variable not in scope, my ass. Watch this value, please. Rellin says, now that you've been working with Unreal, would you say that it's overall better than Unity, more efficient, less buggy? What's the verdict? So Unreal is harder to approach than Unity, but overall I've really enjoyed it a lot more. However, there are a lot of things about Unity that I miss. I'm probably just because I got used to them, and Unreal does have some significant hurdles to entry, especially if you are new. New to game dev. If you're an inexperienced dev, Unreal is going to be a rough ride. I've only found a couple of major bugs, but I have found a lot of missing documentation. Unity has a lot of missing documentation too, but Unreal's missing documentation is a lot more catastrophic. When documentation is missing in Unreal, you can usually find, or in Unity, you can usually find somebody talking about it online. But when stuff is missing for Unreal, you'll find people giving the wrong answer online, which is the worst. But what I don't get right now is why this isn't changed. I mean, I'm transforming the location and the direction via the world transform of the scene component. Why is it not? And I told it to watch this plane position, and it's just not. It's just not watching it. It says variable not in scope. Well, at some point the variable got put in scope because something happened. And I put a breakpoint in thinking that that was going to stop it, and it just didn't. Where the fuck did my mouse go? Hello? That was weird. This is bizarre. So what I'm thinking is that this means that the world transform for the default scene root is nothing. It's flat. It's 0, 0, 0. Which doesn't make any sense because it's not. I mean, it's on its side. It's clearly not. Does get world transform mean something different than I thought? Hmm. All right, well, I want to watch this then. How do I watch this? Uh, the Roland says, what about blueprints versus coding in C++? Coding in C++ is dumb. Blueprints are great. I call it a wash. It's really nice to have these blueprints. They could be a little bit more transparent at times, but coding in C++ is as bad as the blueprints are good. But for most game devs, you're probably never going to need to program in C++, so... Or, I mean, if you do have to program in C++, it's going to be something really minor. Like just making a struct. Sorry, I've got some crap at the bottom of this that I'm trying to get rid of. That's why you show up, right? To listen to me desperately try and figure out how to clean the bottom of a deep glass. Scrub, scrub, scrub. Well, I think that glass is destined for the wash. Like all glasses in time. So, I am pretty confused about this, but the problem is although I've been using Unreal quote-unquote for months, I haven't been using it very much. I've been really slacking because it is simply, it was winter, and I'm terrible at winters. Winters are rough. Winters are very rough. So variable not in scope has to at some point go in scope, right? How can I watch something if it's never going to go in scope? How do I put it in scope? Oh, C++ is much worse than C#. C# is an actual coding language. It has its flaws, but C++ is a relic from the 90s, and it's terrible. It was terrible in the 90s too, but there was nothing better at the time. C# is actually solid. It's not the best, but it's solid. So let's see here. I'm gonna open up this place and search for Unreal watching value not in scope. It's not in scope. Any variables you access will always be not in scope. Great. Make a collapsed graph of the nodes? What the fuck are you talking about? Have it in your main blueprint. Oh, this is in a construction script. I can't put it in my main blueprint, can I? Oh, this is from 2014. This is also from 2014. Well, apparently lots of people have this problem and nobody knows how to fix it, so... Brilliant. So because I can't actually break or watch or anything like these, there's really no point to even thinking about this shit. Maybe I can do a debug print. I can't print that because it's not a string. Can I cast it to a string? Then can I print it? Not pint it, although that would not be... I would not be against that idea. So, just... Oh, is it not in scope because I didn't hit compile? Maybe it's because I didn't hit compile that it wasn't in scope. Let's put that break back in. Oh, I gotta... What did I just click on? I didn't mean to. Look, this one's on scope here. Variable's not in scope. I'm not a happy camper. So you can see that it like pops up for a second here. It's clearly not at 0. It's clearly... There's a scale, and there's an X and a Y and a Z. So I can presume that what we should do is do this. Yeah, we'll try switching it out. Okay, that's not how it's supposed to work. We'll see what's up with this. Okay, so when we drag this, you can see how it says that it's at X negative 600 and Y 593 and all that jazz. That is correct. That is what it is supposed to be, because it is transformed into those values. So why is it that when we actually slice it, should I try inverse transforming? Hold on, let's go ahead and put these back in, see whether there's any difference. The thing that really bothers me here is that it explicitly says that these are in world space. In world space. But then when you actually execute them, they are absolutely clearly, oh, they're in world space now. The fuck? There must have been some kind of issue with it actually compiling at some point there. I must not have hit compile or something. I don't know. So now it works fine. They are, in fact, in world space, as the documentation says. I don't know why I couldn't do it before, but I can do it now. So there we are in world space. And the joy... Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. And the joy of putting something in world space is that as I adjust these... Oh, I see what the problem is. The problem is that it doesn't automatically recalculate when I move the parent. Well, that's not a big issue. Okay. So here you can see what's happening. Ooh, I fell through because the player character is not spawning in quite the right spot. There we are. So normally speaking, it's going to be flat in world space, which is what I was trying to get at. And then what you get is it's flat in world space, and the object that it's inside of is not. It is tilted or whatever, and you get this wonderful sense of being off kilter. Now, one of the issues we've got here is that the function I created to make the water effect is clearly malfunctioning. Clearly, this is not triggering correctly, and I'm not 100% sure why, but maybe it's the problem of it not being in world space again. Don't know. No idea. We'll look into that later. I just did it so that I knew I could, and I can, so problem solved, I guess. What we're going to try and do here is move this substantially off to one of the sides and just try and get a handle on that issue. Yeah, so you can see how it doesn't exist. I bet if we look on one of these sides, I bet it exists outside of this little scenario. Like it's spawning somewhere else in world space. It doesn't really matter, though. I'll figure it out later. Since I know I can do it, I don't have to worry about actually doing it. I can just do it whenever I need to. To be honest, this project is a disposable project in general. It's an experimental project. Whenever I try and actually develop the game, I will be changing it out for a different project. So we're not developing in place here. So this is pretty decent. I definitely can live with this water effect. If I can change the color away from milk, I'll be pretty happy. Not so sure about the reflection modeling. That's kind of a weird one. There's no plane in the middle of this mesh. It's just a cube. See, there's no plane in the middle. So I'm not sure what it's reflecting off of here. Oh, does it think that one of those is refracted? So it's not reflection, it's refraction. That must be what it is. Oh, it might need some work. Well, it's fine. Now that I know that we have at least a something decent visual available to us, we can use it. We'll just figure out ways around whatever limitations we find. And we got some splashing, and we got some junk, we got some all sorts of stuff. So let's talk a little bit more about the way that the game would actually play. So the idea here, normally I'd take out my tablet and draw for you, but my tablet's broken, so I won't. Normally what we would do is, the whole point here is that there are two modes of play. There's the construction mode and the play mode, and obviously in the beginning the construction mode is mostly me, because I won't have any construction tools ready, right? Build lighting, only there it is. So the basic idea is that just like in, say, Space Engineers, you build a ship and then you fly the ship, right? Same idea, except for in this case, the actual functioning of the ship isn't the important part. It's not even really a ship. Chances are pretty high it is not a ship. And because of that, the play is not going to be important in this game. Instead, what you get is... Sorry, I'm talking around in circles here. You're going to be building stuff. Maybe it's a ship, maybe it's a submarine, maybe it's a plane, whatever. The point here is that the play is things going wrong. The play is trying to rescue it, escape it, put it back together, and it might be traveling, or it might not be traveling, or, you know, who knows. But the actual functionality of the vehicle, in terms of how much engine does it have or whatever, is not the critical factor. If you put engines in, I mean, obviously you're going to put some engine in, right? Because otherwise it won't be a vehicle. But the difference in terms of how it performs between having one small engine and 85 large engines is negligible, because it never performs. It exists to be survived. So if you have 85 big engines, then what that would mean is that the player would have the challenge of trying to bring online and fix 85 engines, or, you know, some subset of that. Whereas if it only has one small engine, the player would have, you know, one chance to fix that one small engine, and then they have to, I don't know, find a parachute or something. So by changing the number of engines, you're not changing how well the airplane flies or the boat drives. You're changing how many chances and how complex the player's opportunities are. And because of that, when you're building these things, the placement of these things matters, because the player is going to be walking around in situations like this, where it's quite possible that there'll be a significant tilt, right? Like this. And it's like, oh, you got to get up to the front, and you got to, oh, I got to repair the water again. Just quickly do that. It's a little bit too high. Let's go ahead and drop that down. Too low. There we are. And climb up here and be like, I got to type on some stuff up here. And then that's going to be what the player is doing. They're racing around the ship, repairing stuff, typing on stuff. So the ship construction is all about building a ship, or, you know, a vehicle or whatever it is, that can be navigated around and have things that you can click and tweak and fix. That connectivity is going to be crucial, and how we achieve that connectivity in the construction phase is still something of a mystery. It's what I'm going to have to work on next. Trying to think about it in terms of play, right? Because normally when you think about connectivity in this sort of situation, you're thinking of things like, oh, well, the engine won't run unless it's connected to the fuel tank. But in this case, what we need to think is the opposite of that. We need to think, if we put a fuel tank in, then the player will have to connect it to the engine. During play mode, you know, during the rescue phase. If we put a connection in, the idea is not that it serves the vehicle, but that it serves the player. So the basic idea is that we get active play out of anything we put in. Any connection we put in is a connection for the player to experience, not for the vehicle to run with, if you see what I'm talking about. Why is it still dark? Didn't I recompile the lighting? I thought I did. Is there another giant thing in the sky? Oh, I just that the sunlight is coming in at an angle. So thinking about it in those terms means that as we move through the creation phase, what we're doing is we're putting together things that the player will have to do, rather than trying to put together things that make the ship work. I think you can see the difference there, hopefully. At least I can see the difference, and that's what matters most at the moment. So making that the interesting part is something I haven't really figured out exactly what to do. I'm thinking maybe there's some kind of NPC group, not necessarily an actual one, but like the concept of NPCs or something similar. And, you know, when the player isn't doing those things, it's the NPCs that are responsible for them. But it's a logical thing, not an actual in-game thing. So, you know, you put in a connection and it's like, oh, well, you need 0.1 crew members to man that connection and maintain it or whatever. Something like that. Those connections, though, I'm trying to think about how to punch it up so that the player is always going to be facing something interesting, is always going to have something fun to do. But at the same time, I have to make it so that when you're building the vehicle, you inherently create those fun opportunities, those things to do. And it's a combination of things, right? Navigating the vehicle is a big part of the challenge, and the navigation changes over time as the vehicle tilts and tips and fills with water or smoke or fire. Those are all sorts of things that are going to make your navigation difficult, in addition to things like locked doors or, I don't know, people that are in your way or whatever, right? So these are all navigation challenges at heart. At the core of what we're looking at, we are looking at a set of navigation challenges that we're putting together, with the idea being that those navigation destinations are created by the way your vehicle is laid out. So you lay out your vehicle, and then on top of that layout, you create a network of challenges that will inherently force the player to run around in interesting ways. There are a couple of other things to think about, though. For example, rather than focusing entirely on having the player run around in interesting ways, you can always put a timing factor in. For example, if you want to have a small motorboat or something, maybe you can repair the engine, but it'll only run while you're sitting there holding down the spark plug or whatever. Maybe things will only work when you're at that location actively interacting with them. So now you've got to split your attention between the various systems of the ship, each one of which has an effect on the nature of your challenge. So if you're in a boat and you stop pumping bilge, then the boat will tip. And if you pump bilge, it will untip, just as an example. Okay, so this is becoming a little bit more interesting. So every challenge we create has an effect on the way the player navigates through the systems. Because if we build a jet, for example, if we build a jet and we understand that it has jet engines, then when the player needs to fix those jet engines, whether that's done by going out onto the edge of the plane or at the wing of the plane, or by tricking out some electronics on the inside of the plane or whatever, when the player makes that change, the way that the plane can be navigated changes, because now the jet engine is suddenly on. So now there's a lot of force. Maybe it'll equalize and we'll fly a little bit straighter, or maybe it'll get worse and we'll fly nose down. I haven't really figured that stuff out yet. But the point is, when we fix these components, it changes how we can navigate through the vehicle, because it tilts or untilts or fills with water or fills with smoke, or the doors lock or whatever. And I think that that's really going to be the heart of this situation. When you put an engine in, you're putting in something that the player is going to have to fix. And when the player fixes it, it's going to change how the rest of the ship can be navigated, how you can move through the hallways. Of course, when it breaks, that's also going to interact with it. So if you put like a boat with an engine on one side and an engine on the other side, so a twin-engined boat, and one of those engines gives out, then suddenly the boat's going to start spinning in circles, and the whole thing's going to tip, and the player's going to have to try and navigate through a tipped spinning world, and either turn off the engine that's active or fix the engine that's broken. Now, obviously, you generally want to turn off the engine that's active, which means going up to the bridge and pressing the buttons to turn the engines off. But then you got to turn that other engine back on, and that's a real simple one, right? It's just a very simple little setup. But you've got to navigate through the ship, and making that interesting is going to be the challenge. How do we create a lot of fun fail states that interlock? We're gonna have to think about it. We're gonna have to have some fun and think about it. I really accomplished very little today, and I'm not really... Oh, look at this. It worked. Okay, so the reason it wasn't working before was because it was still using the wrong world space mesh. It works when I recalculate it, I see. So that's interesting. We're going to have to think about what that means. Yeah, that's fun. That's easy. I don't know what else to do today because I need to get my tablet, and I need to start doing some work on like thinking. I could go and try and get the water to work, but I'm thinking I'll just stop for the day after an hour. I really do want to get a lot more done, but I got to think about it for a while. Anyway, if you have any strong thoughts on the matter, let me know. I'm just going to cut it off here with a real short hour. Sorry if this was boring, but my brain's only half working. And it's not the good half. Bye.